Let me tell you a bit about myself first. Ever since I was a kid, I never believed in anything supernatural. I only believed in things that had scientific proof. To be honest, I didn't even really believe in God, but something happened 2 years ago that made me keep thinking about these things again and again. Actually, it didn't happen to me. It happened to my cousin's sister, and I saw all of it happen live, right in front of my eyes. If I hadn't seen it for myself, I probably wouldn't have believed it either. For personal reasons, I can't share who we are. At the time, my cousin was 20 years old. She was always a cheerful and lively person, always smiling. Then one day, we suddenly got news that she was really sick. She had a fever and her body felt weak. At first, nobody took it too seriously. Even the doctor said there was nothing to worry about. I know all the details because their house isn't that far from ours, maybe just about a kilometer away. And since there weren't any men in their family, and her father was usually away for work, they always called me whenever something went wrong. From the start, every time her condition got a little worse, things would spiral down way faster than we expected. Some parts of the day, she'd be completely fine, like nothing was wrong. But out of nowhere, she'd start screaming in pain. Her fever would shoot up abnormally high, and we'd have to rush her to the doctor immediately. So my aunt asked me to stay over at their place for a few days. My cousin had her own room, but ever since she got sick, my aunt started sleeping in there with her. Around 2 or 3 in the morning, she'd suddenly wake up screaming, then burst into tears. At first, the doctor said it was just a nutritional deficiency and gave her a bunch of medicines. But none of them worked. A few days later, something new started happening. She began talking in her sleep, something she had never done before. But now, it was happening every single night. Eventually, it wasn't just while she was sleeping. She even started talking to herself when she was awake. The doctor said this kind of thing could happen in certain cases, but one day what she did, we were completely unprepared for. My aunt and I were in another room. I went over to check on her, and what I saw, I wasn't ready for it at all. She was standing there, holding a knife. The way she stood made it look like she was trying to defend herself from something invisible. I tried to take the knife from her hand, but she was gripping it so tightly that even with both my aunt and I trying, we couldn't get it out of her hand. It just didn't make sense for someone like her to have that kind of strength. After trying really hard and failing, I ended up slapping her, and right then, she fainted. Later, we took her to see a psychiatrist. They told us she was dealing with some mental health issues and that she should never be left alone. They also mentioned some phobias, though I don't remember the exact names now. Over time, her situation kept getting worse day by day. One of my aunt's relatives said he knew someone who was experienced with situations like this. He wasn't a doctor or a psychiatrist, so at first I didn't want to involve him, but we didn't really have any other options left. When we took her to see that man, she suddenly became restless just from seeing him. She didn't want to go near him at all, but we still forced her to. The moment she got close to him, she jumped on him and started choking him by the neck. It took 3 or 4 of us to pull her off. This time, her strength was even more intense. We somehow got her off him, and she fainted again. After that, we took her to another room, and that man called me in privately. And what he said, I was absolutely not ready to hear it. He told me, "We won't be able to save your cousin anymore." Hearing that felt like the ground just disappeared under my feet. We'd been watching her suffer all this time, but we never imagined it could end like this. Even the doctors hadn't said anything this serious. From the beginning, I didn't like or trust that man. So I scolded him and walked away. I didn't tell anyone at home what he had said because everyone was already so fragile. The next few days went on the same way. We'd often see her suddenly stand up from sleep, and after a few more days, her condition got even worse. She completely stopped eating or drinking. Her body turned into skin and bones. It just kept going downhill. And then one morning when my aunt went to wake her up, she wouldn't wake. After a while, we realized she had left us forever. Everyone was in tears, completely shattered. And in my head, all I could see was that man's face, the one who said we wouldn't be able to save her. The doctors and psychiatrists said she had a mental disorder. They said she had developed some phobias, though I still can't recall the exact names. But even now, one thing keeps haunting me. How did that man know she was going to die? I've thought many times about going back to see him, but after how I treated him last time, I haven't had the courage. Even now, I don't believe in supernatural stuff the way other people do, but some questions just won't stop chasing me. There's only one reason I'm sharing this story, because I have some questions for you. What really happened to my cousin? Where was all that unusual strength coming from? And how did that man know she was going to die? And should I go back to talk with him? I live alone in a small house outside the city. There aren't many houses around mine. The area is really quiet and isolated. I came here for a job. Since the rent was low, I chose this house. To be honest, I've always liked living in quiet, empty places. This happened around 4 or 5 months ago. One night, after finishing all my work, I was getting ready for bed, just scrolling on my phone like we all do before sleeping. That's when someone suddenly knocked on my door. I had already been living in that house for about 2 or 3 months, and in all that time, no one had ever knocked. Definitely not at night, and not even during the day. So, at first, I was a little surprised. But then I thought, just because no one ever knocked before, doesn't mean no one ever will. There wasn't a peephole on the door for me to check who it was. The only way to find out was to actually open the door. So, I opened it. There was a man standing outside. He looked to be around 30 to 35 years old. When he saw me, he smiled like he had found exactly what he was looking for. I asked him, "How can I help you?" He said he was looking for someone who had given him this location, but that person didn't specify exactly which house it was. Even though there weren't many houses in that area, I didn't know the person he was talking about. So I said, "Sorry, sir, I don't know him." The moment I said that, he didn't say a word and just walked away. I watched him for a few seconds, then shut the door and went back to my room. Normally, I don't get scared easily, but for some reason, I just couldn't get that guy off my mind. The way he smiled at me, his face kept flashing in front of my eyes. That's when a doubt crept in. Maybe I didn't lock the door when I came home. Maybe I just closed it without locking it. So, I jumped out of bed and rushed to the door. And yeah, I really hadn't locked it. I cursed myself, locked the door properly, and came back to my room. Then, through my window, I noticed something. From there, I could see the road outside my house. That same guy was standing on the road, just standing there, staring directly at my house. He wasn't moving at all, just staring. He didn't know I could see him. 10 minutes went by, but he didn't move from that spot. Then I saw him make a phone call. I had no idea who he called or what he said, but after the call, he went right back to staring at my house. I couldn't figure out what his intentions were. I already had a bad feeling about him from the beginning, and now I was seriously scared. A little while later, 2 more guys showed up. Then all 3 of them started talking amongst themselves, and after that, the 3 of them began walking toward my house. I felt my blood run cold with fear. I had no clue what to do. I grabbed my phone from the bed and called 911. Just before I made the call, they started knocking on my door again. I didn't make a sound. As soon as the call connected, I whispered into the phone that 3 men were trying to break into my house. I told them I was alone. They told me to lock every door and window immediately. They said they'd be there in 5 minutes. I quickly checked all the doors and windows. They were already shut. One of the men started shouting loudly, asking if anyone was inside. I didn't make a sound. I grabbed a kitchen knife and stood silently. Then I heard footsteps outside my house. They were walking around it. A moment later, I heard the doorknob on the back door rattle. They were now trying to get in through the back. I stood frozen, knife in hand. A few minutes later, I heard one of them yell, "Police!" Then I heard the sound of police sirens. The police arrived and knocked on the door. I opened it. They searched the entire house, inside and outside, but there was no trace of those 3 guys. The police even searched the surrounding area, but there was no sign of them anywhere. That night, I stayed at the police station. The next morning, I came back, gathered all my things, and left that house. Now, I don't like quiet or isolated areas anymore, and I don't live alone either. I share a flat with a colleague now. Sometimes I still think, if I hadn't gone back and checked the door that second time, I don't know what might have happened to me. This happened to me 3 years ago. My parents had gone to visit some relatives, leaving me alone at home. It was a quiet, rainy evening. I sat watching a horror movie on TV. I don't remember the exact name, but it was about a girl who stayed home alone, and strange, unexplained things started happening to her. I was getting completely drawn into the film. That's when I suddenly felt like someone was present in my house. At first I thought I was just imagining it. Maybe I was too focused on the movie. You know how it feels when you watch a horror film? Sometimes your mind starts playing tricks on you. So I didn't pay much attention initially, but after a little while, I clearly heard footsteps coming from the kitchen. Again, I tried to brush it off, thinking it must be the effect of the movie. But something inside me told me I should still check, just in case. So I walked toward the kitchen. The only lights on in the entire house were in my room and the drawing room. Everything else was dark. I turned on the kitchen light and looked around. Nothing was there, not a single sign of anyone. I laughed at myself and thought, it's just the movie getting to me. But just as I was about to go back to my room, I saw a shadow outside the drawing room. It disappeared quickly, but right after that, I clearly heard the sound of footsteps again. This time, I was sure. It wasn't the movie. Someone was really in my house. My hands and feet went cold from fear. I quietly looked around and carefully went back to my room. I grabbed my phone with shaking hands and dialed 911. My voice was barely a whisper as I told them everything. The dispatcher told me to stay calm and find a place to hide. There were a lot of valuable documents and items in the house. I didn't want anything to get stolen before the police arrived, but I was also too scared to step out of my room. I had no idea if it was just one person or more, and I didn't know why they were even there. Then an idea came to me. There was only one entrance and exit in our house. I thought if I could just run out and lock the main door from the outside, whoever was inside wouldn't be able to escape. Even if they wanted to steal something, they'd be trapped until the police came. So that's exactly what I did. I ran from my room to the main door, opened it, stepped outside, and locked it from the outside. Then I waited for the police to arrive. 5 minutes passed. It felt like an hour. Eventually, 2 police cars pulled up in front of my house. They didn't waste a second. They went in and searched the entire house. But they didn't find anyone. Nothing had been stolen. Everything was exactly where it was supposed to be. They asked me if I was sure someone had been there. And honestly, by that point, I started doubting myself too. I thought maybe I had imagined the whole thing because of the movie. But then, one of the officers called us over to the window. On the railing near the window, we could clearly see wet footprints from the rain. That meant whoever had come in had entered through the window, and probably escaped the same way. I had been so focused on locking the door that I completely forgot someone could just escape through the window. That night, the police advised me to stay somewhere else. I ended up staying at a friend's place. Even now, I keep thinking, whoever entered the house didn't steal anything. So why did they come in? Ever since then, whenever I'm home alone, I check every door and window before I settle in.